everyone. Welcome to this regularly scheduled meeting of the Wethersfield Board of Education. Tonight is Tuesday, September 12th, 2023. We are in the Town Hall chambers. Ellen, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Chairman Carey. Good evening, everyone. Mrs. DeRoberts?
Present.
Mrs. Drew?
Here.
Mrs. Granato? Present. Mr. Healy?
Here.
Mr. Lacavoli?
Here.
Dr. Regan Lefebvre? Here. Mr. Riley?
Here.
Vice Chairman Mr. Cassio?
Present, Ellen.
Chairman Mr. Carey?
Present.
And all present.
Thank you. And if we could have our two new co-student reps, Noah and Mary, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Emmett, student staff recognition.
Okay, we have two items this evening, Mr. Carey. Good evening, everyone. If I could please have the Lion leaders please come forward to the podium.
Good evening, everyone. Terry Esco, principal at Silas, Deane Middle School. I have the pleasure of introducing Mr. Dante Solano. He's our second-year science teacher on our Crimson team, and he took on the class 7th grade orientation program that week before school started. And he took something that kind of just started and created a vision of it to try and create some more student leaders within our building with our returning 8th graders. So with that, I'm going to give it over to Dante.
Thank you, Principal Yasko. So basically, the whole thought behind this program was we have class orientation. We have a lot of 7th graders coming in who want to get to know the building and want to feel comfortable that first day of school. And what better way to help them feel comfortable but having some 8th graders come and assist in that process, whether it's helping them get their lockers ready or walk around the building. It also provides our 8th graders an opportunity to grow as leaders and explore, that side of themselves and give themselves some student voice and student representation and take some more ownership and responsibility back in their school. So I'm going to stop talking now and I'll let my student representatives here, Matt, Sebi, and Alejandro here, just wanted to share a couple things they enjoyed from the program.
Hi, my name is Matthew On, and I am proud to be an SDMS Lion Leader. It gives me the chance to help others and support my school. This summer, I was able to help with the incoming 7th graders. I gave them a tour of the school so they could find their classrooms. I helped them practice opening a locker. We also played games like Keep It Up and basketball so they could get to know each other. They learned we are a friendly group of kids at SDMS, and I hope to support my school more this year as a Lion Leader.
Good evening. My name is Sebi Palambizio, and I'm an 8th grader from Silas Deane Middle School. I remembered my first year of middle school and how difficult it was to get adjusted to the new climate and the new tremendous amount of people that we had. Thinking back to the first day, I wish I'd taken advantage of the class orientation at the time, but I never got around to doing it. As an experienced 8th grader, I wanted to provide the incoming 7th grade an outlet to learn and to become successful for this year to come. I was determined to join and teach. I was determined to join and teach the incoming class about how the school worked and to make your transition as stress-free as possible. When I heard there was an opportunity to take part in this class orientation that was new to this year, I was eager to submit my application. Over the 4 days of this class, I watched as the group of kids I was assigned to become more comfortable with each other, and I would be proud to say that by the end of the 4 days, they were basically best friends by the end of it. The most memorable part for me was the end of these 4 days, with my group of Orange Team students won the day of games that Mr. Solano had planned out for them. On that day, the team of strangers had found comradeship in each other and provided them with comfort for the days of school. I would like to take a moment to thank Mr. Solano and Principal Yasko for taking the time out of their summers to make this program happen. It was delightful to work with this group of kids, and I remember this experience fondly for a long time. Thank you.
So thank you to my Lion leaders behind me over here who wanted to come out and share some of their experiences. I mean, this is a program that just sort of happened. And so we're kind of at the inception of it right now, and hopefully we can continue to have it grow and provide our students at Silas Deane the opportunities to continue their student leadership. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Great job. Thank you. Any board members wishing to make comments? Ms. Granado.
First of all, you guys did a great job. You're the leaders in the school. I love it. You started 7th grade and you become leaders in 8th grade. But it is a short journey, so I'm glad you're enjoying it, and I'm glad you're making the 7th graders comfortable. Anything new that we do in that middle school is a plus, and I'm thrilled this was happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Lacavoli.
There once was a time when I had hair, and I was in that middle school.
8th grade?
7th and 8th grade. I was in that middle school, and I remember how intimidating it was on my first day. And it is really nice that you guys took the initiative to show other people the ropes. Show them around, show them what to do, show them what to think, show them who to talk to. Sometimes all it takes is being shown the way. So thank you for your contributions to the school.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Cassio.
Thank you so much. There was a time when my hair wasn't white, and I did go to the Silas Deane Middle School. When I went, it was 7th, 8th, and 9th. And similar to what you're doing now, we had safety patrol. And they would walk around and make sure that everyone was, mingling and making sure that the halls were clean and kept tidy and the kids were not having a problem. So I'm happy to see the Lions Leader Club starting a good tradition and something that we're rebuilding again, and I'm proud to say that. And good luck, and keep up the good work, and keep up the spirit at the Silas Deane Middle School. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Dr. Regan Lefebvre.
Thank you very much to all of you, Matt, Sebi, and Alejandro, for your hard work on this. Leadership takes a lot of forms. I think a lot of people think leadership is bossing people around and telling them what to do, but I think it rarely is, and you've shown really excellent leadership by leading by example and setting a really good example to the new students. And I hope we'll see you back here in a few years when you are doing something similar at the high school for the new students. Thank you.
Mr. Emmett.
Yeah, I just want to say, gentlemen, thank you very much for everything you did. I want you to understand the impact that you had over the course of the summer. On day one of school, and I've been doing this now for 12 years here in Wethersfield, typically at Silas Deane Middle School, we see a lot of students in the hallway struggling with lockers. I did not see that at all this year. And I talked to a lot of 7th graders on the first day of school, and they felt very comfortable. And that is because of the class program, and it is because of your leadership. So just want to say thank you to all three of you. Mr. Solano, a teacher leader at Silas Deane, we greatly appreciate your work. And Ms. Palambizio, I see you here as well, another one who was very instrumental in making this class program happen. And our principal at Silas Deane, Ms. Terry Yusko, thank you very much for making a smooth start at Silas Deane. Well done.
Mr. Emmett, any other student staff recognitions?
Yes, if I could please invite to the podium for a brief introduction our co-student Board of Education reps. This year, we decided to think outside the box a little bit. As you know, over the past couple years, our student reps have had some conflicts with regard to attendance at meetings with all of the things that they're doing at Wethersfield High School. So very pleased to report that this year we will have co-student reps so that we make sure that the high school is represented here. So if I could please turn it over to Noah, introduce yourself.
Good evening, board members and town of Wethersfield. My name is Noah Torrance, and I am honored to be here tonight as one of your co-student reps. A little about me. I am a member of the track team, indoor track and outdoor track, cross country, part of the pre-med club, part of Eagle Crew, and most recently, part of First Day of the Eagles Way.
Good evening. My name is Mary Dunn. I'm also a senior at WHS, and I'm also honored to be a co-representative of the Board of Education. A little bit about me: I am involved in many clubs at WHS, most importantly the art clubs like National Art Honor Society, and I'm very interested in that, and thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, and welcome.
We gonna have enough chairs for them now?
Paper, scissors.
All right, any other student staff recognition?
That's it this evening. Mr.
Thank you. Board comment? Anyone wishing to make comment? Yes, Mr. Roberts.
I just want to remind everyone, I see on the schedule that on Thursday, the 14th, this coming Thursday, we have a Facilities and Maintenance Committee meeting, and that the public is welcome. You aren't allowed to speak at the meeting, but you can certainly come and gather information. Also, I want to comment that I attended the first WSPC meeting of the 2023-24 school year. That's the Wethersfield School Parents Council. It was attended by just about every school, representatives from just about every school, where they discuss on a monthly basis the different fundraising plans they have or needs, and also the different events that they have going on at the school, and coordinate everything. And as always, I just find it so impressive that here in Wethersfield, at least, we have such a large number of people who are willing to step up and volunteer and really make our schools work really well because of the PTOs. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Granado.
I just wanted to comment that the Keene Foundation had a delightful get-together last night in honor of 9/11, and I do tease Judy Keene all the time that she is Wethersfield Public Schools' fairy godmother. Well, when you see what is going on now, post-COVID, in our after-school programs, and our hands-on science programs, it is phenomenal what this group has done for our students. So just thank you to Judy Keene, and to say that I will always remember the Keene Foundation and how we celebrated it last night. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Cassio?
Thank you, Chuck. Janice, thank you for reminding everybody we have a meeting this Thursday on facilities. Great things are happening in Wethersfield, in our schools, and just by the students coming to the podium tonight to tell us what's going on in Wethersfield. I'm excited to see the new student reps for the high school. We'll certainly learn the roads, and if you have any questions, don't be worried, we'll certainly help you. But I want to thank all the staff in Wethersfield, the support staff and the classroom teaching staff, for all they do to continue the pride of Wethersfield, the spirit in our community, and to make good things happen in our district. We have a lot of ways to go, and many of our instruction and teachers and our administrators go beyond the call of duty, and that's what makes a good district. So I want to thank them for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, Dr. Regan-Lefebvre.
Well, my colleague Matt Lackavolmy told me when we were coming in that today is National Encouragement Day. So I might as well add another note of encouragement there, and also just give a quick shout out. I had the pleasure of attending Porch Fest. I saw many of you there. It was a great occasion. I'm really grateful to the Old Wethersfield Shopkeepers Association who put this event on. But special shout out to last year's Teacher of the Year, Emily Caravella, who was playing a beautiful string trio on Main Street, and I really enjoyed the music that she and two of her students shared with us. But in terms of encouragement, I'd like to say thank you to a lot of the parent volunteers who are stepping up this time of year. PTOs are jumping into action. They're organizing a lot of events. I know that with sports starting up, there are a lot of parents who are involved in supporting sports teams. So thank you to all the parents. And if you're thinking, well, I'm not involved with my PTO and I'm a parent, I'm sure they would really appreciate your assistance.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
I think that we kind of dropped the ball and forgot to thank our administrators and our staff for the fantastic opening convocation that we had. It was amazing, and I didn't think that they'd be able to top last year, but they did a great job. And I will say that I still can't get out of my head Emmett and Mr. Karzar dancing. So I appreciated it. So I just wanted to say thank you. I enjoyed it.
Excellent.
Is it on TikTok?
All right, moving on to approval of previous minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the August 22nd, 2023?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion
Abstain
when we get there?
to do that.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Okay.
Any discussions, comments? All right, motion and second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you. Motion carries. Public comment, anyone in the public wishing to make comment, please step to the podium, state your name, address, and you have 5 minutes. Public comment is closed. Communications, Mr. Emmett.
Thank you, Mr. Carey. Good evening again, everyone. We had a tremendous start of the 2023-2024 school year. We did start off with convocation this year. One thing I will add to Ms. Drew's comments is while Mr. Kazar and I and several of our colleagues started the dance, what was most important was all of our students that got up within the aisles and came up and danced with us. We also had an opportunity to hear from our Paraeducator of the Year from Silas Deane Middle School, Ms. Rosanna D'Onofrio, as well as Wethersfield's Teacher of the Year, Ms. Emily Caravella. We had an opportunity again there to have some of our fine musicians from grades 4 all the way up through grade 12 participate in a string version of Ozzy Osbourne's Crazy Train. Was proud to have been able to play the Vibraslap at that performance. So again, it was a great start to the school year. I was able to get out to all schools, elementary, middle, and high school, as well as the Transition Academy on day one. It was greater than a 5-mile walk, all told. But we seem to have everything that we needed from a transportation perspective. Far fewer in the way of issues with transportation this year compared to last, specifically around the open choice transportation. So it appears that autumn has in fact hit their stride. We have a full complement of bus drivers. I know that we've had a couple of parents reach out with regard to Discovery Academy runs. Matt is working on that now with autumn. We expect to have a solution set up for that tomorrow. From a lunch standpoint, breakfast and lunch, I did share with the board last week, I'd like to let the public know that days 2 through 4 this year compared to last year, elementary breakfasts served, we served an additional 226 breakfasts compared to last year. Elementary lunch, we served an additional 265 compared to last year. At the middle school, we increased the breakfast allocation by 81. And for lunch, we saw an additional 214 students participate in lunch compared to last year. At the high school, we had a total of 445 breakfasts served on days 2 through 4. That's an increase of 166 compared to last year. And for lunch days 2, 3, and 4, we had 2,574 lunches served. That's an increase of 225 lunches compared to last year. So I'm certainly proud to see that our students are getting nutritious breakfast and lunch, and they're not having the challenge of having to pay for it this year. So again, kudos to the state for those additional funds, as well as effective management of the cafeteria fund by Mr. Kazaka. So thank you for that. I do have a couple of other items this evening. You heard from 2 of our board members about the Facilities and Maintenance Committee meeting. It's here on my communications as well. It will meet on Thursday at 6 p.m. at the Stillman Building. Sally Katz will be providing an update on building projects completed over the summer. We'll also discuss the new legislation around HVAC and air quality in schools. And Colliers will also be attending to provide an update on the facilities assessment that was done over the course of the summer. The anticipated presentation of this to the community will be at the next board meeting on September 26th. On Friday, I will be participating in a Connecticut State Department of Education and Department of Public Health and Safety call. This is in lieu of the 3rd Thursday of the month with the Commissioner. We will be getting updates with regard to COVID as well as other respiratory illnesses that tend to crop up in the fall, including RSV and the flu. So I'll have more information once I receive it. Very pleased to report that the state has released the next round of funding for the HVAC grant. I'll be meeting with Town Manager Presley and Sally Katz on Thursday morning to discuss the pursuit of this grant with an emphasis on the replacement of the chiller at Silas Deane Middle School. As you heard earlier this week, we had the chiller go down during this heat wave. It went down on Wednesday afternoon. It became quite uncomfortable there. that chiller. As we know from the 2018 Collier study, as well as the RLE energy audit last February, that chiller is on its last leg. So we're going to look to submit a grant application to the state of Connecticut so that we can get reimbursement for the replacement of that chiller. I also want to let you know this evening that the current score over at Catone Field is Hall 28, Wethersfield 6. I get the word that we're not playing particularly well. Again, I will say to the community, last week with regard to the football game, I have never had so many postponements. I have never seen so much lightning, and I have never seen so many storms just sit over Catone Field. So they're playing Hall this evening, again, 28-6 at halftime. I will tell you that this Friday's game against Southington, it is a home matchup. We do expect that will likely be changed to sometime over the weekend so that we can give our students enough rest and recovery. So our athletic director, Mike Maltesi, will have additional information on that following tonight's game. As was mentioned earlier, sports teams are all in their seasons now, so things are wrapping up and ramping up rather quickly. Also, with regard to the recent hot weather, we've had multiple issues at schools with regard to HVAC, with regard to humidity. It's one thing that we'll be speaking with Juan Salazar about. Yesterday, I returned to the Stillman building, and outside my office, we had a AC line that backed up and spilled water into the closet and made a significant mess. So we've been battling HVAC issues throughout the scope of this year. Unfortunately, the humidity has been unbelievable. So we're continuing to monitor building by building. We're expecting a cold front to come through tomorrow, which should drop off the humidity and hopefully return our buildings back to normal. So. Also this evening, just so that you know, we did add, it's an adjusted agenda. We will be speaking with you this evening regarding the process of changing the protocol around turning off access to Chromebooks overnight. So we have with us this evening Mrs. DeStoli, as well as our network engineer, Mr. Jim DeRegan, who'll be providing a presentation and some data to discuss this item further. And with that, it's communication, sir.
Thank you. There's no action items. This reports and discussions, announcements and information. Board members, keep an eye on your packet for upcoming committee meetings. And now we're on the discussion of Chromebook policy. Needs a new light bulb.
Let's hope not.
Well, we got the IT guy here tonight, so.
It only took like 3 years to get the new light bulb, so.
And how many people?
We're getting there.
We didn't have a ladder tall enough.
But it lasted for 3 more years.
Right.
Here it is.
Stretching every dollar, right?
Yep.
They're slow to start up, but they're steady.
All right, we just cut the lights and we all set.
There it is. Okay.
We're good?
Not now. Yep. Just wait for the screen to pop up. There we go. We're ready.
So good evening, everyone. We are here to talk a little bit about our new policy on restricting access to Chromebooks. So we want to start with a little bit about the why. So we've had ongoing conversations all summer and over multiple months to talk a little bit about the why. So let's set the stage. We have a lot of conversations, both in IT, curriculum, central office, around health and safety, and this includes time on our devices. We have a lot of dialogue around how we keep our students safe, both physically, emotionally, and online as part of the safety umbrella. So I'm happy to be here tonight to really dialogue about this important conversation because it is something that's important to our district and, again, the safety and health and safety of our students. So a lot of our work in this decision-making is part of the kind of the big picture, if we stand back, is a recent report by the U.S. Surgeon General around youth mental health. And this quote is really quite powerful, right? Mental health challenges are the leading cause of disability and poor life outcomes in young children. That is really a stunning statement. I'm going to go on to share a few more bullets, and actually I'm going to make this interactive. I'll let you read 3 of these kind of quotes or information from the Surgeon General, and I want to just kind of pull a couple of you. What resonates the most with you out of these 3 bullets?
I'll say the third one, because that's my life right now.
Yeah, the research is clear. It impacts all adolescents, but over the impact on females is shocking. Anybody else?
The middle one, there are many studies that have come out that have really connected sleep deprivation to depression. So it's very important. Balance in everyone's life, especially our children, is very important.
Yeah, that use of social media, as you said, depression, poor sleep, and we see that here in Wethersfield. So let's go look at the next slide. So we have 4 other pieces of information from the Surgeon General. What resonates with you here?
I think the word childhood deaths.
Say that again, sorry.
Childhood deaths.
Childhood deaths.
The last 2 words, yeah.
The last 2 bullets. Right, roughly 2/3 or 64% of adolescents are often or sometimes exposed to hate-based content. And some social media platforms show suicide and self-harm related content, including even live depictions of self-harm acts content in which certain tragic cases have been linked to childhood deaths. It is really profound statistics and information from our Surgeon General. And so we really morally and ethically feel compelled to respond to this. Mental health is a national crisis for our adolescents, a state, but please know we see the same trends here in Wethersfield. We here in Wethersfield are not immune to these trends. We see increased anxiety, stress, panic, depression in our adolescents. And so we are navigating, education is navigating a mental health crisis. And so we need to consider this as we look at our policies, our procedures, right, and our work around trauma-informed, restorative, increasing the social workers in our schools is all in response to some of this data. So what are the facts? We want to really be data-driven and make decisions based upon data. So we know the kind of the landscape. We see increased trends in adolescent mental health, and I want to add that it starts at the age of the very youngest learners. It's not doesn't happen just at high school or middle school. It happens across all ages. So what's some of the data we looked at? So Board of Ed Policy 5780, and I highlighted a few things. Your policy, our policy clearly states that our technology devices have been purchased and provided to students for educational related purposes. In an effort to ensure such computer systems are used by solely for educational related purposes. So our policy really was looking at our data and addressing and related to these areas of policy 5780. So again, our policy says that as the owner of the computer systems, the board reserves the right to monitor the use of district computers and the computer systems. And as you know, we have a lot of firewalls and safety procedures and filters, but this is another way that we're looking at monitoring the educational use of our Chromebooks. The other thing I want you to know that as an educational community, some of these decisions span beyond the high school level. While we've received some feedback from the high school, Right now, our controls do span all of our Chromebooks. We're still investigating ways to maybe try to differentiate that as tools become more sophisticated, but right now, our filter also applies to all grades from 2 up to our students in the WTA. So we're looking at the larger school community. While today's conversation will focus a lot on the high school, it is something we look across grades. And then some data. Jim pulled some data from just last week, and we found that 8% of our district students, again, anywhere from grades 2 to the WTA, are on the devices between 8 and 12. And 6% of our students are active between 12 a.m. and 7 a.m.
Amazing.
We also looked at some data last May. We pulled 2 weeks of data from 10 to midnight. We found that the students that were on student devices only, students that were on, the largest amount of students were on YouTube, which is a social media platform. 32% of our students were spending their time on YouTube. We didn't pull the data, but based upon other data, I would say 98% of that is not educational, maybe 99% of that. 10% of the sites that students were trying to access were blocked by a filter. 2 out of the 3 websites or website hits that students were visiting were not educationally related. And again, our filter systems give us some data back. And we've even seen third graders that have actually, as young as third grade, been on their Chromebooks at 3 a.m., right? Time we think we all should be sleeping. So really the trend, which is true across all of our data, the later the hour, the less educational usage, right? So we're not seeing the educational purpose use of Chromebooks as the night goes on. We also know that students have taken the youth count survey back in 2021, and we'll be coming to you to do this again soon. And here's a little bit of data again around our students here in Wethersfield. We saw the number of youth in grades 7 through 12 report feeling almost always or always feeling anxious, increasing from 20% to 27%. We would predict that that would be even higher when we re-administer the survey. And again, you can see some data reported by students around suicidal ideations on the slide also, that it also is trending up. There was also a survey question about social media, and what's interesting is that this trend actually increased at the high school. Students in the high school, 42% of students reported that they heard or saw something their parents or guardians would think is inappropriate. Many people estimate this should actually be higher than what was reported, but again, this is data from our students.
I'm sorry, that last one, could you go back? You said
Sure.
that this was their response. Is this for the entire time they have access to their Chromebook, or is this in this switching hour of 10 p.m. to 2 a.m.?
No, this is just a general question about social media, so not specifically Chromebooks. On the youth count surveys, it's about social media in general.
So whether they use it, they could use it on their own phones or their own laptops, but
Yes.
it's not necessarily something that was generated through using the Chromebooks.
Correct, this was not a Chromebook specific question.
All right.
Yep, thanks for the clarification. So again, we thank students, staff, and parents who provided feedback via email or Parent Square. Originally, we had proposed an 11 to 6 p.m. restriction. And so I want to share some of the feedback we've gathered over the last few days. Many parents or students that are athletes talk about returning home late from sports games. I did take a look at the practice, and there are a few games or sports that do have some late games, but not a regular occurrence every night, but there are times that happens. There was some concern that if somebody doesn't have a second device at home, it could negatively impact them. So an equity issue. We had some people giving us feedback around UConn classes have a kind of a submit date at midnight. They wanted to provide opportunities for students to hit that midnight submit time. Some people still don't think it's reasonable to have limit access from 11 to 6 or 12 to 5. We have some parent that would like us to turn it off at 8 p.m. 11 or 12 was too late for them. Some parents said that they want to make sure that, limit early and get students to bed, get them up early, and they need a good night's sleep. Another parent pointed out that it is a national crisis, and thank you for looking at that limitation. Some parents were concerned that restricting access makes it harder for students to get their homework done. One of the things we are recommending is if something happens, you're up at a late game, something happens, go talk to your teacher. We are a trauma-informed school. We are here to help, right? We want to help you with time management, executive functioning. Things happen in our lives that we can't control. We can talk to our teacher, right? Make accommodations. This is definitely not meant to restrict people's ability to get homework done. Again, as we look at our data, we're finding that there are non-educational activities happening. Some people feel like there's excessive homework. I wanted to note that WHS does have a homework policy of no more than 20 minutes per class. That does exclude AP or ECE classes, so they may have more additional homework. Some students said they needed their Chromebook to listen to music at night. We'd encourage you to use your personal device for that. Some students have jobs, and some people believe that it's not the school's role to set curfews. So as you can see, the feedback spanned the gamut of a lot of different opinions for a lot of different reasons. So we have responded to that feedback and kind of collated it and collected it. And originally we had proposed 11 to 6 and have kind of moved that back by 2 hours and have now implemented the 12 or midnight to 5 a.m., recognizing that some students might wake up early and we use the 12 o'clock ending time. And again, we are continuing to investigate ways that where we can possibly limit access to different hours of the elementary school or the middle school in the future, if that's feasible. We're also looking at this large picture, so it's not just about Chromebooks. We've been talking about how do we engage people in bringing in signage to our schools about social media and the impacts on mental health and digital citizenship. We're talking about how we need to tighten up our digital citizenship curriculum. While we do some of that naturally, we don't have a real clear scope and sequence around understanding data privacy and the internet and all the pieces related to that. And the landscape is changing quickly. We want to educate staff, parents, and students. So thank you for having us here for this conversation, because this is part of that education of the why. This is so important. Jim and his team are continuously improving firewall and filters and cybersecurity measures, which is incredibly important in today's world. And we're continuing to talk about how to limit access to YouTube. There are some districts that have closed that off totally, but we do have some teachers using it instructionally as a result of distance learning and COVID. So we're kind of working through the problem-solving ideas, talking to districts and working through that, so how we can find the balance as videos can be available instructionally, but limit the non-educational streaming of videos that is very, very common on our Chromebooks. So here's our takeaways. We want you to know that we take safety seriously, and so our implementation of the Chromebook restrictions is really meant to focus on student safety. I've come to say nothing good happens late at night on the internet. We're not trying to prohibit students from completing their homework, but if you're doing homework at 2 or 3 a.m., I think it's a different conversation about balancing your time. How can we structure you? Is it effective time at 2 a.m., right? Like, how can we help you look at that big picture? Talk to your teacher. They're here to help. So if something happens, please don't do homework at 3 a.m. Talk to your teacher and make an alternate plan. Time management is a skill. And mental health is in a crisis in Wethersfield, so we need to keep talking about it. We all know about brain development, and adolescent brains are continuously developing until they're in their 20s. And so we need to be able to support, provide opportunities for our students to flourish and grow independence, but also be able to make sure they're safe within our public school system. Questions, thoughts?
Yeah, let's get the lights on first. Board members. Yes, Ms. Granado.
My first comment would be thank you, because this is a lot of information, a lot of important data. Is there any chance we can do this every year to see what our students are doing with the computers as they become even more a part of their world and their way of learning? I think it's so important, especially that last piece where mental health is a crisis in Wethersfield. Let's keep discussing and let's keep watching these students as they're using these. And I know it's related. We're all finding this out, but I think we should keep track of it too with this data. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Drew.
I have a couple questions. First, what was the policy prior to implementing this in regards to seeing the students, what they're doing? What do you do when you find them at 3 a.m. on YouTube?
You want to talk about the alerts? You want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead, get started there.
Yeah, so in some of our filters, we do get some keyword alerts. So there are certain things that will send alerts to administrators that we respond to, and they've been very helpful. But our AI in our filters, it's not 100% perfect, right? And so we don't have anybody whose responsibility is to track that all night. If we have a question, we can go look at that data, but the tracking system doesn't give us a flag that you're on 3 a.m. Our tracking system is giving us, is blocking sites based upon keywords and other features, and it is giving some alerts to administrators depending upon certain words that come up. So we have the ability to take a look at that data, but again, we haven't been monitoring it. When we went to go look and ask the question, that's where we recommended the change in this policy and all the other steps, right? As we look broad picture of how do we keep our students safe.
Yeah, and also to expand on that, we just implemented a brand new filtering system called Lightspeed Relay. And that is a brand new product that has some pretty powerful AI. So this is where we will be able to bring a lot of these thought processes forward to the board in the future and give you some more reporting features. Because the filters are ever evolving each year as it gets better and better and better. It's really not as much AI as much machine learning, but you know, it's moving towards AI now, so it's getting smarter and smarter. But yeah, so we should be able to provide better reporting moving forward.
So one of my concerns is that I feel like we went from 0 to 100 without really looking at it, giving the parents the opportunity to discuss this with their children, since they're the ones that are there, not giving the opportunity for the students to make the mistake and learn from the mistake and then grow. We are basically cutting that off, and I'm not terribly in favor of that. I have a child who goes to bed at 8:30 at night, and she gets her sleep. And I feel that if she wants to wake up and work on a report at 3 o'clock in the morning, that she should be justified. She's in honors program, she does well, and I feel like I should be the one who's given her that opportunity. I've spoken to another number of parents that also feel that way, a number of students who feel that way, a number of students who are in the AP programs, and they find that the work that they have to accomplish sometimes cannot be done after their academics. Also, in regards to some of the data, I really like to see a lot more data. The one slide that you had where you said like 8%, was it 8% or 6% of the kids were going from?
8% from 10 to 12, 6% 12 to 7.
12 to 7.
Correct.
So I want to see something where it's more like 12 to 5, because after 5 o'clock, the kids, in order for them to get into their study hall in the morning at the library, they have to go in and log in. Yes. And how do they log in? They log in through their Chromebook. Right. So that also will also skew the data. So I'm concerned about the numbers that we have here. So again, I'm concerned about it because again, it jumps. And I understand the process, and I understand that we can't just say K through 8, because quite honestly, my 4th grader should not be on YouTube at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Sure, right.
So, but I think we need to develop this more. I'm personally am not in favor of an automatic shut off. So.
So that reminds me of one thing, Amanda. So we are not shutting off student accounts. If a student has a personal device, they can access their accounts. Through our school-based devices, the internet is shut down, but your students' accounts are not closed, if that makes sense. So if you have a home-based device or would like to, anybody like to have a home-based device, they can access their accounts at 3 a.m. Not something we would recommend, but again, if that's what something wants to happen in their home, they can access their accounts through their personal device. So that doesn't limit them.
For equity purposes, there's also some people who only have that as their device
Yeah.
as well. Luckily, I'm not in that, but there are others that have that. And again, it's,
And that's where we encourage you to talk to your teacher, talk to your counselor, and we'll put a plan together, right? There might be extended deadlines, all sorts of things we can do for that small number of students, but we can help work with them to figure that out.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
When did you implement this policy, and when did you tell the parents and the students?
Yeah, so I own that mistake. We probably should have communicated sooner. I don't think I realized the number of the reaction that we got. So I own that piece about not communicating sooner. But we then got some communication out, got feedback, and that brings us here to our current decision.
Any other board members? Yes, Dr. Regan Lefebvre.
Okay, I have a quick question and then some comments. My question is, can you use a Chromebook without the internet?
So as a general rule, you cannot, no.
Okay. So it actually disables word processing functions, for example?
It is a cloud-based environment, so yes.
Completely. Okay, that was one of my questions. That's not what I thought, but I don't actually think it changes my opinion on this. The board has received a lot of communication from parents about this, as have you, and some of that was in the presentation. And it's board policy that we not individually reply to those, but we always read them. So we are aware of it, and I know some parents felt blindsided by this and extremely frustrated. However, maybe this could have been done differently, sure. I strongly support blocking it from 12 to 5. It's hard when you have a policy that isn't consistently enforced because people forget that it's a policy. But, when I look at policy 5780, which governs use, it's very, very clear that we have the right to monitor and to restrict usage. So I think in terms of, the legality of this, we are completely within our rights, and it's consistent with the policy we've had for years. Has it been consistently applied? Maybe not, and that can create confusion. So we should be mindful of that moving forward. But I think a lot of the problems that parents are communicating, they're objecting to this policy, but it's actually symptoms of other problems, right? So a student who is regularly getting home far too late to complete their homework by midnight and then is presumably getting up and going to school pretty early in the morning the next day, that student is not getting enough sleep. I think there is persuasive data that there is a link between poor mental health outcomes and screen use. But honestly, you don't need to convince me of that link because there's much, much more well-established data, longer studies of the importance of sleep in adolescent brain development. So a kid who's regularly only getting 5 or 6 hours of sleep has a problem, and it's up to the adults, it's up to us, it's part of our duty of care to make sure that doesn't happen. Now, whether that is a particular teacher's giving too much homework, or a sports team is spending too long at practice, or the student needs help with executive functioning and time management, that's the problem. The problem is not shutting down the Chromebook, I think. And I feel this way as an educator who, has some, works with a similar population with college-age students. I want to also add that ECE deadline is submit by midnight, not submit at midnight. And that's just a good, healthy thing to put in practice, that you not necessarily submit your work at the last possible deadline. So I do feel for the parents and students who are upset by this policy, but I think we need to actually diagnose the problem correctly. It's not that we are making internet unavailable at certain times when we can reasonably expect students to be sleeping, children to be sleeping. It's that there are other demands on students' lives that make it difficult for them to manage their academics. And many of those are outside of their control, and that's what I think we should be looking at, and not this policy here.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Riley.
Well, I agree that screen input in general for many is excessive. And I agree that computer usage should be for educational purposes. it was mentioned that this is an important issue, and I agree with that as well. In terms of transparency, this major change illustrates a lack of input from students, parents, the policy committee, and this board. Thank you.
Mr. Roberts?
It's in our policy that it's up to us, or up to you, how you handle it. So that is, it makes sense to me. And I do think that, I mentioned the word balance before, and I think an important thing to learn as you're growing up is balance and the importance of it in every aspect of your life, as far as your physical and mental health, and that you might want to do everything, but you really need to think about what you can do and still be healthy. And that's a learning, that's part of learning. And so I think that it's a good thing to do.
Mr. Cassio?
Thank you, Chuck. Thanks a lot for the presentation. Very informational. I hope there are parents out there that are able to see this, to answer some of their questions that have been coming to the table. It's a learning experience. We're post-COVID, so I think we've got a lot of drama and concern with that particular arena. But most importantly, I think, do we have, I know you alluded to the answer, but we don't have a way to find out who's gone off the reservation, what student. Do we know, in other words, who in third grade has gone on YouTube that shouldn't be there, or who in other schools have gone on sites that were blocked? And if so, is the parent reached? Is the parent told that they, basically have done something wrong?
So our filtering systems definitely can, spot students that, are on late at night. We can see their accounts, yes, we can. And, it is a verbose reporting feature, yes.
Now, should that be something, and I don't know, because, I don't have any students in the school now, but should that be something that should come out at a parent-teacher conference? Should it be communicated in a way or a fashion that they may, want to monitor their child? Or if there's a concern, does the parent know that the student can go and talk to the teacher? I mean, those are things that, I'm sure it is, but I don't know if it's a possibility or are we stepping over the boundaries?
Yeah, I think that's a larger and different discussion, right? It's not something that classroom teachers have access to, all the data, and again, our procedure of monitoring that and calling parents. And again, parents have different opinions about times and websites and information. So our parent audience will vary in their opinions. And this data we can collect. There are alerts, again, there are certain alerts that trigger a phone call home. So ones that are high level, there's definitely parent correspondence where we investigate and sometimes we restrict students' access more. But again, procedurally, it's a lot of data and we're not playing Big Brother on that data, but what we're saying in this policy is that you won't have access between midnight, and one way to regulate that. But again, there is some independence, there's the trust in our students to use it educationally. I think there's some education that's come out through these conversations. And so I think and I appreciate the questions, I appreciate the feedback. I think it's a really interesting topic and everybody has a different opinion about it. But again, really by keeping health and safety of our students and educational uses is what drove our decision in this. But I think you raised some questions, John, that there's a lot of what ifs with the data and the filtering. And we have ongoing conversations. And again, large picture, YouTube is one of the biggest kind of trouble spots, we believe, on the internet based upon what we're reading and learning. But, in 4 months, there could be a different site that hasn't even come to our radar right now. So it's an ongoing landscape that we continue to talk about. The IT team is fabulous with the back-end filters and trying different things and testing them out. It is a complicated landscape, a very complicated landscape that's ever-changing, and the kids have a lot more time to investigate and try different things. So it's something we continue to talk about, and where we go with that, we'll find out.
Mr. Healy.
Yes, thank you for that explanation. I just have a couple of points. Since this is a asset of the town and the school district, it's a pipeline. And we're saying from between 12 and 5, we're turning the pipe off on either end, except, of course, if you have a phone or your own laptop, or your own whatever device, you can get into the system. So to be hoisted on the equity petard is one issue. Because we're not really shutting it off. We're only shutting off for people that have no other way to get on it unless they have a Chromebook, correct?
Correct, we're shutting off for
Okay.
education
So-
purposes, yep.
So that's the first point. The point here is that if you take the 10-hour to 12-hour deal, and as someone who, as a C+ student my whole life, spent many nights at 10 o'clock trying to figure out my homework. But if you go to 12 to that 5, you're talking 6%. So we're talking a very, very small part of our student population. This is not a problem of over 40 or 30 or a magnitude where you would think, hey, we've got a real problem here. Everyone's up late at night and showing up without enough sleep. That's the other issue. And finally, just another one, this is a parental issue with their children. A parent, I would imagine, tries to balance their child's life between learning, social emotional development. If they have a sports team, maybe they're interested in art, you try to balance that child with guidance to say, okay, well, you can't spend 8 hours working on your curveball. You've got to work on your other stuff and maybe work 4 hours in the curveball, right? I mean, that's how that's supposedly we're suited. But that is a parental responsibility in conjunction with assistance from the school board as needed. If this 12 to 5 period is just shut down for that purpose, and maybe not to upgrade the system or to do other things, and I'm not saying we need to hire someone to sit there from 12 to 5 going through the system doing things. I'm also share what Board Member Drew says. I'm not so convinced this is a real, I think it's a sort of a solution in search of a problem. It is not, it's a small amount. Yes, some children should, I like to, every kid should get 8 hours of sleep. I should get 8 hours of sleep. But it's not up to the school district to tuck children into bed every night. It's up to the parents to do that. And I just think once we start doing these things, that people that may have a different time cycle or whatever, if they're getting on and doing things, and we still don't have enough information of what they are doing. They may be on YouTube watching the Gettysburg Address and being inspired by that. Okay, they might be on watching some nonsense as well. But I would urge you to go to another school district and say, are they getting along without YouTube, period? And if they're getting along without YouTube, there's plenty of things on the internet, I would imagine, through Chrome that children can use to augment their studies, to get their papers done and all the other things they need to do. So we're not here in this deal, because someone could say, well, what's the difference between 12 o'clock and 12:15? And then you get into that bargaining about, time and, what's an acceptable time. It's up to parents to turn the phones off. It's up to parents to limit. In my day, it was up to parents to turn the TV off. You didn't get to watch TV. I'm dating myself here, but it's the same thing. It's the parents. We are the Board of Education designed to do policy where we are incorporating parents, teachers, paraprofessionals, everyone in a partnership. But you have to let the parents do what they're doing, and you have to create a set of expectations, I think, for the parents to do that. And I appreciate you taking responsibility for this, this issue of communication. We get caught up in all what we're trying to do, and sometimes we get ahead of ourselves. And, I was out, and believe it or not, someone actually came up and talked to me about this as well. I appreciate this very thorough presentation. I think you're being very thoughtful about it. But those are my objections and my concerns about setting these sort of arbitrary things on an asset that technically there's no reason to shut it down if you're not doing it for maintenance or other security purposes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Noah or Mary, not to put you on the spot, you have any thoughts? Have you heard anything in the high school?
Sure. I understand that the focus of this was
You want to come
Do you
sit?
want to come up to the microphone?
Sorry,
You're on the record now, you got to talk to the microphone.
sorry to put you on the hot seat.
I understand that the focus of this was mainly people who are misusing their Chromebooks. And for me, I know even when I stay up late doing homework and stuff, I'm like a small percentage of that population. So, of like the students who are staying up doing their work. So I think honestly, I kind of agree with it because, especially the 12 to 5, not necessarily the 11 to 6, like, but for the 12 to 5, I think that it will help students keep them from procrastinating and get their work done. And
Yeah.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? John?
Sally, one of the things, do we follow any other districts? Do we know what other districts are doing with this type of policy? So that, you know, maybe at the next policy and planning committee, that can be an agenda item to, you know, kind of put the tapestry together. Are we mirroring other districts? Is this an ongoing conversation and discussion that school districts are having? So.
Yeah, so over the summer, we did reach out because we knew we were going to have these conversations. We did reach out to the other districts with the State of Connecticut listserv. Summer's a difficult time. All of the district tech staff, folks who make that type of policy are getting the buildings prepared and ready. But we are going to send that out again now that these conversations are ongoing to find out. But I think we had one district that reported back. Was it Newington or that said they have a YouTube restriction also? I mean,
Yes, yeah.
districts are doing it. We know they are. We just need to get some more feedback from them to reinforce our thought processes here on. And, you know, and I just want to say that I've heard a lot of folks here say balance, and that is the word here, because we're trying to strike a balance here. Because as we discuss technology district-wide every day, the word of balance comes up. Technology is synonymous with balance, and it's threaded across. So that was our main goal here, was to find some type of balance.
I can speak to other districts that have restricted the use of YouTube, and I think it's something that we need to start seriously looking at as we move forward. East Hampton is a district that has limited the use of YouTube. And again, you saw the data up here tonight. I had Jeff Telke pull some of that data, that 32% of the usage was YouTube. Jeff looked at 84 hits to YouTube. 83 of the 84 were for entertainment purposes. 1 out of 84 that he looked at was related to education. There was one on there that I will tell you was absolutely offensive, and it gets through the filter. It didn't say anything at all about anything of a sexual nature, but when you listen to it, it is offensive. And for as good as our filtration system is, they find a way around it. And again, my stance on this, my goal is to make sure that we create as safe a cyber environment for kids as we possibly can. Okay, to go to Silas Deane Middle School and talk to an 8th grader who said, I find out, skipped school, stayed home on Thursday, now we're dealing with chronic absenteeism. Stayed home from school because he couldn't sleep the night before because he was on his phone. Or my first social media issue of the year, where I have an SDMS group chat on Snapchat. These are not on our Chromebook devices. These are on personal devices. And I've got an 8th grader telling other kids to go kill themselves. We're dealing with this all the time. And this mental health piece, it is a reality. That's the data. I'm not making this up. We dealt with that today. So it's one of the things that we look at to try and balance. And with the YouTube piece, we're looking at ways we can be able to restrict it while we know our teaching staff, we know our students use it. YouTube has a great place in the educational world. I see it in every music class I go to. It is helping to teach music. It is, you mentioned the Gettysburg Address. I mean, I can see where students are going and they are doing research based on YouTube. But I also see it being used very, very inappropriately. And I think we have a duty, if we're providing these devices, I'm not trying to restrict use, but I'm trying to strike that balance. That's what I'm looking for here.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
So with this policy currently, so say for example, we decide that we're going to restrict YouTube. Okay, we're able to like do some sort of filter to make sure the bad stuff, the Gettysburg Address is good, the other stuff is bad, and that's out. Will that change the time? Will we no longer need the time? Because now because a third, 32% of whatever the issue is it's really YouTube. And so our problem is really YouTube. It's not really the time, it's YouTube. So will that change, or will this be arbitrarily kept? And my concern is, again, there wasn't really a conversation about this. It was just all of a sudden appeared, and and really it sounds like the issue is YouTube, not 12 to 5, not 11 to 6. It's the site that we're having the issue with. And I feel like it's kind of like backwards.
So when it comes to the conversation about YouTube, so the district employs two of the most powerful filters that are available today, GoGuardian and the Lightspeed Relay filter. They have the most powerful machine learning today, and it's growing every day. But I just want to exact the thought process here that these filters still have a difficult time filtering within the YouTube environment. That is part of our problem. They do a fantastic job at filtering, whatever site you may want to go to, a straight domain like CNN.com or Fox News or USA Today. It does a great job. But once it gets into an environment in its own, like YouTube, that truly is a world of its own. These filters now, and even though they are so powerful, have a difficult time in there. We are able to set some pretty granular controls, but still that machine learning does miss certain amount of things like Mr. Emmett was saying. Again, the word balance and technology, we're trying to find that balance between allowing YouTube to work well, but be able to filter within it, and we are meeting some restrictions as most districts do find this.
So I think the answer is, could be, maybe. I think it depends on the filtering of tools.
Yes.
What we have for data.
Yes.
I think it's a complex ecosystem that we'll definitely analyze that, right? I think that's an option, but I think it depends on the ability to keep our students safe.
Can you restrict that one site?
So here's what we're finding out now. So now that we're employing the Lightspeed Relay filter, that's new to us. But it is supposedly one of the best out there, and that's why we purchased it. We're still, as an IT team, learning about it, and we're learning as fast as we can. But we feel like it could have those more granular controls that we need to help fix this issue. But we don't know yet, but we will find out. And we can report back on that.
Yeah, I know. I got two people. Go ahead, Michael.
Is the 12 to 5 weekdays or 7 days a week?
Say again, please.
Is the 12 to 5 weekdays or 7 days a week?
It would be 7 days a week.
Michael.
You had a question, Jim, as you get more familiar with this platform, will we ultimately have the ability to restrict by grade level? I mean, to me, it seems like the biggest concern is at the high school level as opposed to elementary and even middle school. Do we have that capability down the road?
That's our hope, and that's what we're efforting to find out.
But the biggest concern I hear up here, Michael, is people don't think we have the right to parent the kids. So that has nothing to do with elementary school.
Right.
That's what I'm hearing up here. So that's where I'm confused, because some people say it's okay to do it for elementary school, but not high school. But that's a bigger issue then. Bobby?
No, I was just going to mention the fact that I do think this has to be ongoing. I mean, we're talking about it tonight, and I think we have to talk about it maybe in 6 months as you develop the use of this tool that you have, and also we continue to gather data. This is an important issue for our children, because as we move along in this technological age where the kids have all their devices, we're finding the issues with them. and we're seeing what it's causing. We recently talked about one-year-olds scrolling on iPhones in the grocery store. I mean, this is part of everybody's life, and is it really supposed to be there? All I'm saying is I think we need to be this needs to be ongoing. We need to continue to gather data and information.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you for putting that together on short notice. We do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Noah.
Yes, Noah? Yep, you come on up, switch, tag in. Hold on.
This is kind of a convenient topic for me because I just wrote an essay about this for my rhetoric class. Sort of. I'm in the process of writing an essay. I'd like to read the last couple of paragraphs from it.
That's fine, if you can just talk into the mic.
Is it on?
Yes, there you go.
Okay. Forgive me, it's not quite polished yet. At its core, the internet is a method of connection, one that allows families to FaceTime across continents and scientists to work collaboratively to an astounding degree. It also holds a wealth of information and education, all obtainable by the public, mostly for free. This is crucial for remedying social and economic inequalities. Take Khan Academy, for instance, a free online school that has enabled millions of students, myself included, to flourish academically and perform better on standardized tests, such as the SAT. Before the advent of the internet, to obtain such opportunities, one had to jump over the economic hurdle required for private tutoring, an expense that most households were unable to afford. It's worth pointing out that no teenager is really utilizing the internet for its true purpose and potential at all during their 12 hours a day of screen time. Instead, we find ourselves trapped in a wormhole that is scrolling through social media feeds, which act less as a product of the internet than a parasite that threatens to undermine the value of the whole thing. One beneficial thing that we do use the internet for, and then I have to skip a little bit because this is just from the article I was responding to, is store information. Instead of spending our time remembering dates and specificities that we could easily access with a quick Google search, we can go a little deeper into the concepts instead of the copyrights, as Amy Goldwasser, an editor of the New York Times, puts. In the end, there are undoubtedly benefits and pluses to the internet, but there's no questioning its dangers. With the reality of our addictions, the strongest proof. While indeed some of us are able to grapple with our screen time limits and find some way to be responsible for the internet, it is becoming harder and harder for the rest of us to do so. As things are now, we need help. This means education on how to avoid addictions and how to use the internet responsibly, how to take control over use and not be controlled by it, and how to deal with the plastic and unrealistic worlds of social media. It also means that we need to recognize the internet as a tool, a powerful, dynamic, and dangerous one. Thank you.
Thank you, Noah.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on. We'll let him put up the screen. Sorry. Board of Education meetings held, the WECC committee on 9/11/23. Ms. Granato.
Okay, so WECC is our Wethersfield Early Childhood Collaborative, and we had a meeting on Monday. Yesterday, it's September 11th. The mission of WECC is that all Wethersfield children birth to 8 are healthy, developmentally successful learners and connected to the community. The new WECC program coordinator is Jessica Coelho, and our first meeting of this year was held at the community center. We had 2 guest speakers. First, Carmen Feliciano is the early childhood consultant from the Village for Families and Children. Carmen informed the collaborative of the Early Childhood Consultation Partnership. This organization is free for ages 0 through 5, but not kindergarten, and is funded by DCF, but does not report to DCF. They are child-specific and teacher-supported. So after a referral is made, Carmen visits in person at home or in a care setting. The program addresses stressors and behavioral challenges at home or in the classroom. Early Childhood Consultation Partnership gives strategies and creates an action plan with and for care providers and focuses on social-emotional strategies. Carmen further explained that a plan is established that has an initial meeting, creates an action plan with goals. She makes 2 observations, one in home and one at school, uses assessment to evaluate the mental health and behavioral needs of children, has a follow-up visit, recommendations and free social emotional support for teachers. Anyone in the community can make a referral: parents, guardians, teachers, care providers, and community workers. And our second speaker was Melissa Mahoney, who is the Family Support Coordinator from the Family Enrichment Center of the Hospital of Central Connecticut. Melissa spoke of the Circle of Security, a program she would like to bring to Wethersfield, and it is completely free. The Circle of Security teaches caregivers how to attend to their child's needs and can help identify what prevents us from letting kids explore, what holds us back. This is a learning on how to create a safe haven for our children. Melissa is looking to possibly start the Circle of Security in Wethersfield this October. WECC has a website where all of this information is available and is a most valuable source of support to our parents, teachers, and students. Please visit the WECC website. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Granato. Meeting schedule, facilities and maintenance on 9/14/2023 at 6 p.m. The Board Retreat Workshop next Tuesday, 9/19/2023 at 6 p.m. CREC Council, 9/20/2023, 11:30 a.m. Finance and Operations Committee, 9/26/2023 at 6 p.m. There's no unfinished business. Public comment. Anyone in the public wishing to make comment, please come to the podium, state your name, your address, and you have 5 minutes.
Hello, my name is Liz Walters, and I live at 57 Rainy Lane in Wethersfield. I wanted to follow up on something that Dr. Reagan-Lefebvre had mentioned regarding 5780, the policy. Policy actually doesn't say that you can restrict. What it does say is that you can review and monitor, and if the students are not in compliance with the student agreement, then their access, I believe the wording is that violations will lead to withdrawal. So I would say as we go through and we look at the data, which I think is a great suggestion, I'd also look at the student agreement policies so that if we want to make a change and we want to review a policy that might need something different every year, that we can do so in the student agreement so that your policy holds, but the student agreement gives you the flexibility to respond to the data that you're pulling. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public wishing to make comment? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Do we have a motion to move to executive session to discuss the superintendent's goals for 2023-2024?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? We are